Hi, I'm Justin Young, and this is Robert Alfonso Jr. We're with HoopSeen.com, and today is Rankings Release Monday. Alfonso, we've covered a lot of events this spring, dating all the way back to middle of March to here we are the first week of June. We've seen a lot of basketball. We feel confident enough to roll out our top 30 players for the class of 2014. We've got a brand new group of guys. We've reshuffled the deck a little bit in the top 10, and a lot of things have happened over the last couple of months, and we've got a lot to talk about today.
Well, we do, and you're going to have a lot of surprises. There's going to be a lot of new names that people are not familiar with. There are going to be some great reasons why they've made the list, and you'll see why.
Let's go ahead and jump right into it. You can go to HoopSeen.com and check out the list 1 to 30. And if you get there, you'll see a lot of familiar names at the top, particularly our number one player at the number one spot, Jakeenan Gann, a 6'8" power forward from Effingham County, followed by Ahmed Hill. 1-2 doesn't change at all. Ahmed Hill, a super scorer from Augusta Aquinas. Those guys have been really good from the start.
Well, the thing about it, they've lived up to the name. You know, both of those young men have gone out on the circuit and have played as well as they're going to play, and they continue to get better with every possession. You know, and they also are attracting so much attention from college coaches that it's almost like it seems like on a weekly basis, one of them is getting a phone call from somebody.
And, you know, just like NBA draft, NFL draft, we go into those things knowing who's going to be number one and number two most times. That hasn't changed here with our rankings. But number 3 is where we start to mix things up. And as we look at the list, Isaiah Wilkins, a 6'7" power forward from Greater Atlanta Christian and the Georgia Stars, climbed all the way up to number 3. Alfonso, you and I have seen him quite a bit here, even here at Swanee Sports Academy. What do you like about him?
Well, the one thing is, like, we talk about this, and when we're sitting down and we debated this and we went back and forth on this, people. And the thing about it, we realized that he's a guys that gets stuff done player. You know, the guys that we talk about just gets things done. And the one thing that we really wrestled with and evaluated on our rankings is the fact that what kind of player, what kind of guy could he bring? And he's one of those versatility guys that has allowed us to be able to play on the defensive end if we're a defensive-minded coach, which he does have with the Georgia Stars, or really a flexible coach in terms of Coach Martin over at GAC, that Isaiah does so many good things on the basketball court. And the one thing he does well is win.
You know, I was over at Berkmar the other day for their team camp and had a chance to sit down with Coach Eddie Martin. You know, he's coached for almost 30 years, coached a number of players, some guys in the NBA. He won't come out and say it, but I get the feeling that Isaiah Wilkins is, if he's not the most favorite guy he's ever coached, he's one of the top 5. A lot to like with Isaiah Wilkins. As we move down the list to Marcus Blanton, number 4 from Luella, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later, but moving up the list is Devin Mitchell, nearby Collins Hill, climbing up to number 5. He's been a guy that I think has proven himself quite well.
Well, the one thing that everyone is really enamored with when it comes to Devin Mitchell is his ability to shoot the basketball and his ability to score. And he showed that on the biggest stage possible with EYBL, playing for the Georgia Stars, and actually had a great, phenomenal last event circuit for them when they went to Minnesota and went 4-1. You know, part of it is he also has been able to really get into the flow. He's a real team player, knows how to get people involved, but the one thing he does well is he shoots it well, and that's what makes him very attractive to a lot of college coaches.
Going number 6 and number 7. Number 6 is Elijah Staley, from Wheeler High School. Made the switch over to the Atlanta Celtics. He's followed by Phil Kofer at number 7 from Whitewater. The once afroed Phil Kofer trimmed his hair down and switched back over to between the Georgia Stars and Team Georgia Elite. He checks in at number 7. And number 8 is a guy, Nate Mason, that we debated back and forth, you and I did, about he and Devin Mitchell. Nate Mason, a guy that plays at Shiloh High School, went to North Carolina and played with the powerful CP3 team on the Nike EYBL circuit. He's a guy that gets buckets, can knock the shots down, more importantly, knock down shots when you need him down the stretch, and he checks in at number 8. Moving down the list, we've got Todrick Jackson, a guy from the Georgia Stars, Tift County, a guy that's been around these rankings, it seems like, for the last 10 years.
Right.
He's been a guy that's been a staple. And rounding things out is Keith Pinkney at number 10, the top overall rated point guard, playing at a Georgia high school this year. And so that rounds out our top 10. But as we look at this a little bit closer, and as you dive deeper after this, you start to see some things that are changing. Let's start with Marcus Blanton, who's number 4 overall of our rankings. He jumped up an amazing 13 spots, Why did we have him rise so fast?
Well, the thing about the rise of this young fella is because he had a great summer last year, but we're not going based on the resume. Because if that was the case, he didn't have the superstar breakout, school season. But he came on in April after injuring himself on a dunk attempt at practice and literally has been on fire since. And he's been able to scorch the competition on both ends of the floor. He plays so hard that he is probably the most recruited young fella in the month of April that is just taking place with the college coaches. Played
really well here at Swanee Sports Academy at the Bob Gibbons Tournament of Champions. I think every coach that watched him play, the common theme with him was effort. And when you look at effort, when you look at results, I think TaMarcus Blanton consistently from start to finish was the guy that was really good. You look at other guys that are on the list, Hunter Ware from North Cobb Christian, who now plays for the Atlanta Express with TaMarcus Blanton, also made a climb, one of our top risers. But the guy that made the biggest jump of all was the guy that wasn't even on our rankings to begin the spring.
Well, that young guy is Cameron Johnson, who is probably one of the biggest leaders on our list due to the fact of he's a two-sport athlete like some other individuals on our list, kind of like Elijah Staley, that they provide that leadership and that voice. And he attends Clark Central, and the reason that he's so attractive is his versatility, because he's able to guard a big post player if necessary, or can switch over and guard a guard, but can score from either of those positions as well. And then he has such a poise, like a coach's kid, because his mom is actually the head girls basketball coach at Clark Central, and has the understanding on how to win, which is part of the reason why the Smyrna Stars have had such a successful spring, part of it is because of the effort of Cameron Johnson.
So Cameron Johnson, checking in at number 13 overall in our rankings, is one of 8 new players to our new top 30. You can check those out if you go to HoopSeen.com. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at HoopSeen to really interact with us. Let us know where you think maybe guys that maybe aren't on the list, guys that you think should be on the list. Give us your take. Give us your opinion. Really tell us why you think a player should be ranked higher, or a guy that maybe shouldn't, or a guy that isn't even on the list that maybe should be in our next set of rankings as we move forward. Part of the great thing about rankings is they're very fluid. We want to make sure that we are also very transparent of our rankings. So if you check on our site, you'll see where guys were once ranked, how many spots they're raised up, how many spots they dropped, and guys that are new. I think when we look to July, there's a lot of storylines that I'm looking forward to. We talked about at the start of this video, Jakeenan Gannon and Med Hill have locked in at number 1 and number 2, but I'm not so sure that those are locked in cement. I think we've got a chance to see some guys that compete for that top spot, particularly as even moving even higher. You look at Isaiah Wilkins and Devin Mitchell, guys that have really proved themselves in the spring. Am I wrong on that thought, thinking those guys aren't locked in?
Look, you're not, because see, there's so many other variables, not just them, but just the rest of this list, because, we're only in June, and we all know that the U-Haul trucks are available for the transfer situations that are taking place. But, those two that you mentioned, Isaiah Wilkins as well as Devin Mitchell, they will make a significant move at some point this summer. Right. And they're going to make the jump that may surprise a lot of people. Another thing that we both discussed is just the development of our bigs.
Right,
You have the John Carlos Reyes of the world. You have the Chris Coakley, guys who play on high-level quality teams, but do not probably garner the attention that they could get come this summer. And I think this is going to be a breakout summer portion for those two guys, because they need to be able to establish themselves not only for their own success, but definitely for the success of their teams.
We look forward to seeing what happens in July. We've got a big-time event here at Swanee Sports Academy, the middle period, July 18th through the 21st, the best of the South, and it really is what the name says it is. It's the best teams and the best players in the South. And what we've known from the Bob Gibbons tournament in the past, these sidelines will be packed with college coaches. We'll be watching, because what do? We look for guys that want to be seen.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you guys have a lot more to be seen in the future on HoopSeen.com. Be sure to follow us again on Twitter at HoopSeen. I'm Justin D. Young. He's Mr. HoopSeen, and this has been a rankings recap for the class of 2014.